anyways, so this video that you guys see was created for this year's thing. It's representative of a new project that I'm doing. We don't know what the title is. I'm thinking Noise on the Street or something like this, because I love to talk to people. I love it. You know, I actually, to be honest with you, I just love people in general. And we'll get into that in my last session today, in my tactics session, and how to have good conversations with people. But I view them as, every morning my prayer is when I just, that God would use me however he would see fit, that it's just a privilege to serve him, even in my suffering, even in the pains of life, even in the joys of life. But then also that God will allow me to view people as he views them, of infinite value and worth, knit together in their mother's womb, created with purpose. So anyways, so this is an example of what I'm one of my projects here at STR, and just talking to people. Now I want to, in light of what Dwayne just taught, listen to what some of these students say. You can hit play.
Hey, okay.
So would you say that you're a Christian because it's true?
Yes.
And what's it mean to be true?
To be true, I guess, is individualistic. Everyone has their own views on truth.
So is it just right and good for you, or is it right and good for everybody?
Well, when you assign yourself to those like collective beliefs, you really have to be careful about what you call true. But for me, like what I believe in is because what I believe is true.
I'm asking if you guys grew up in any religious tradition.
Yeah, we grew up in an Islamic household, all three of us.
Okay, are you guys all three still Muslims?
Yeah.
Why are you guys Muslim?
Well, I just grew up on the faith. It made sense to me, and then gives me a sense of peace practicing.
If you could be shown Islam is not true, would you reconsider your belief system?
I don't think so.
Why not? That's a really interesting answer.
Just because like I personally like believe in it a lot. Like just it's not like I am Muslim because like I was like born into a Muslim family and everything, but like I did find the religion myself.
Is it, when you say it's true, is it true for everybody or is it just true for you?
That's a tough question. Yeah, but
I could say it's true for me. Everyone has their own beliefs. Everyone has their own ideology. So if you're saying that's one religion's true, the other's not, that's kind of not how it is. I let others believe what they believe, but let me believe what I believe, you know?
My first question to you is, are you a Christian?
No, I'm not.
And my next question is, why are you not a Christian?
My parents grew up in India, and they were raised with really strict religious parents in Hinduism. And when they tried to instill that into me and my siblings at a young age, it didn't really set. I didn't really get the whole religion thing.
Would you say that they're equally valid, even though there's a contradiction, or is one way the right way and one way is the wrong way?
I think it's a personal choice. As long as it gives you a sense of peace, what you're following, then just go with that one.
Just go with whatever works, kind of.
For you, whatever gives you peace at the end of the day.
Notice what happened there, that these students, and this was representative, that was at University of California, Irvine, which is a really good school, by the way. And these kids were pretty smart kids. To just be going to college in that school system means that they're smart. But some of the stuff they say is really stupid. You know, but that's what's being taught there. And that's representative of, I was on that campus for, 5 hours. And I was, that was representative of every single person I talked to. I talked to probably 15, like groups of people or people. The only person that I spoke to that would hold true to the idea that that there's an objective truth out there was an atheist. And he was the only one that when I was talking to him, I said, because I had just finished talking to a Catholic young woman, and I said, this woman over there is Catholic, and are you willing to go and tell her that she's wrong? I'd asked that of all the other people. Everybody said, no, I'm not going to tell somebody they're wrong. This kid, this student, he said, you know what, it'd be really difficult, but yeah, I'd tell her that she's wrong, which is interesting because he was an atheist. But at least he was willing to hang his hat somewhere. You know, and I understood that because I shared a little bit about a story yesterday with you guys, and I'd like to kind of rewind stuff and talk about this and the importance of following truth wherever it leads. And I'm going to start kind of like where I'm going to finish this talk, hopefully if I ever get there, is that I don't believe what I believe because it makes me feel good or it's gained me anything. I believe what I believe because it's true. And when I say it's true, I mean it accurately reflects reality, the way the world really is. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but you guys, this is an older group, I'm not talking to students, but you guys hopefully have figured out that the world doesn't bend and contort itself to the way that you want, right? According to your personal preferences and your personal opinions. You know? And if it did, it'd be a very messy place, to be honest with you. That's not the type of world that we want to live in. Because anyways, my story starts as all good stories do with I met a girl. Okay? I met a girl. Her name's Rihanna. She's now my wife, just to cut that out. And so I had just moved from Washington, D.C. to Southern California, to Hollywood, actually. And my sister was living in Hollywood. Well, she was living in the Valley, but she was working in L.A. And I said, hey, I want to kind of move to California. Why not? It's sunny. It's beautiful there. The people are beautiful. And I just want to go. So I moved. And my sister was really excited, and I had a little bit of a reputation. She had been talking me up to her coworkers. So the night I arrived, it was literally my first night. My bags were still in the back of my sister's car, and I was at my car, and I was at a party. So no, I was at a party, and because if I say that word wrong, you guys think I say potty, and I wasn't in a potty. I was at a party, and I was sitting up. It was a high-rise overlooking downtown LA, and downtown LA has a beautiful skyline. And so I'm sitting outside on the balcony, just taking in the view of my new home, and all of a sudden I heard somebody come in the front door, and I turned of the apartment, and I turned around, and it was the most beautiful girl I've ever seen in my entire life. She was absolutely stunning, and she commanded the room. You know what I mean? Have you ever met somebody that's like that, just magnetic? And she opens the door and she walks straight in and she starts talking to everybody. I'm like, oh my gosh! And then all of a sudden she starts walking towards me. I was sitting on the balcony. And she comes and she's just walking as quickly as she can, quick little pace, smack, right into the screen door. She walked right into the door and she fell back. And the most amazing thing is this woman, Rihanna, she fell back. I remember to this day, she was wearing a red sweater, dark jeans. She had mid-calf high boots on. And she flung her brown hair back and she let out the most ridiculous laugh I've ever heard in my life. And it's so amazing because when she got up, it's like she had done it 1,000 times before. It's like what she did, you know? And it was amazing. And I got to know her and during that night, and then she was sitting there next to her boyfriend, and I told her I loved her. Oh yeah, because that's the kind of guy I was. And whatever, and eventually we got to know each other, and then we started the date, and she dropped that loser and started dating me. And then something happened. During the course of our dating, I found something out. She told me that she was a Christian. And my reaction was, no! Because I was the atheist, right? And I not only was that, I had a preconceived notion of who Christians were. I thought Christians were stupid. I thought they were dumb. I thought they were intellectually corrupt. I thought they were just they needed to evolve in their thinking and get to where I was. So it was a major issue. And then Rihanna and I would lean into her. And if she was sitting here, and this is not, if anybody here is of dating age, you're not already married, I'm not giving you an excuse to do missional dating here. It doesn't work out well most of the time. But we most of the dates, if Rihanna was here, she'd admit this. Most of the times when she would leave my house or leave the date, she'd leave crying. Because I would berate her on her faith. I know. Why she stuck with me, I don't know. But eventually, what happened is I wanted to get to know her more, and I really was falling in love with this girl. And so she asked me to go to church with her. And I've done crazier things for the affections of a woman. So I went to church on Sunday, with her. And when I walked into this, it was so strange. I'll tell you what, I got saved in a charismatic church, so there was the woman spinning in circles over in the corner, tongues everywhere, and I'm thinking, what I thought is true. You people are insane. But through a course of events, I got to know a lot of people at this church. It was morning. It's called it's an Every Nation church, Morning Star Studio City, and the people were really cool. Maybe stupid, I thought, but they were cool. And then I got to know them. I'm like, oh my gosh, these people aren't stupid. They actually know what they believe and why they believe it, some of them. Well, then Rihanna wanted to become a member of this church, so I went with her to all membership classes. And the final step in the membership class is you have to meet with the pastor and his wife. And my wife has an incredible story. Like, I don't have time to share it with you, but it's amazing. And so she shares her story. And I went to this meeting with a stack of papers and notes, this thing. Because I was going to debate this pastor and have him abandon his faith right then and there. Because that would be another, imagine that notch on my atheist evangelistic belt. Pastor Dave, gone. So I brought up all my questions to him, and a lot of the other answers, he tried to answer them, but some of the questions he just answered, I have no idea, John. That's a great question. I've never thought of that. I don't know. Some of them he gave me good answers for. But we had a great dialogue. And at the end of the meeting, it's funny, him and his wife, they hugged Rihanna, and they said, we'd love to offer you membership to the church. Welcome into Morning Star. And then Dave, my turn came, he took my hand in his, and he says, you know what, John, we have enough members right now. Thanks for coming. Which is fantastic, because you know what would have happened if he had said to me, at that moment, if he had said, hey, John, we'll work with you, you're coming along, we'll pray for you, I would have been like, this is a load of crap. Everything's true. You just want my butt in your seat, you want my buck in your coffer, and that's all you care about. But he wasn't that way. And the best part of this meeting is while my hand was still in his, Pastor Dave, he turns me around towards his bookshelf, and he pulled a book off the shelf. And said, John, I feel like I didn't answer all of your questions adequately, but I think some of the answers to your questions, you might find the beginning of those in this book. And it was a book on Christian apologetics. I had never heard the word before. And I read that book, and you know what? All of a sudden, things started to change for me. Around the same time, my future in-laws, Tom and Debbie, they gave me my first black Bible. It was one of those New Believers Bibles, edited by Greg Laurie, NLT, so super easy to read. Cornerstones of the faith, who is Jesus, what is sin, stuff like this. And I read that. I didn't drive. I was like the only person in Los Angeles that didn't have a car or drive. Literally, my wife's first question to me when we got to know each other was like, what kind of car do you drive? Like, typical LA girl thing to ask, I'm like, well, I don't even have a driver's license. So I rode the train to work. There is a train in LA. Every day I rode to work, and over the course of 3 months, I read that Bible from Genesis to Revelation. And in that interaction with the Word of God, and then also with that interaction with the intellectual side of Christianity that was offered to Christian apologetics, things started to change for me, because what ended up happening is I started seeing the world not differently, but rightly. I started what I call bumping into reality. And I want to start off by talking about something that I want to let you in. I'm going to draw back the curtain on a couple secrets here that I think are important. The first to remember, guys, as we're talking about this thing, Christians, we have reality on our side. And what I mean by that is the world is a certain way. If Christianity is true, that means it accurately reflects the world as it really is. What that means is everybody has to live according to that same reality. So they have to live in that world that God made, whether they believe in God or not. And at some point or another, they're going to bump into it. We just need to be there to point out those bumps. Second is Christianity has an incredible explanatory power. And guys, I'm going to give you an opportunity to get me your emails, so then I can send you my presentations. And they come with like a full script of my stuff, and you guys can do whatever you want. So I stand on the shoulders of giants. None of this is my work. It's all collaborative, as I think we'll all agree with that. So you can do whatever you want. But Christianity, the Christian worldview has explanatory power. I mean, it can explain the world the way that it really is, better than any other worldview. So now let's talk about those bumps, because I want to spend some time. What time am I done here? Noon?
Whenever you want.
Noon.
11:05.
Okay. So let's talk about those bumps. These bumps of reality, and when I bumped into these things, when I was living just according to the ordinary, everyday occurrences of life, I would bump into the way the world really is. The bump of stuff, the bump of bad, and the bump of me. And I just want to talk briefly about each one of these things. First is the bump of stuff, and this is not controversial, okay? This is where it starts. Stuff exists, right? Stuff exists. The chairs that you're sitting in, the table that my computer itself, you and me, it exists. The question is, where did the stuff come from? And the more foundational, fundamental question is, what caused the universe to come into existence? And this isn't, this is something that we run into all the time, these types of questions. I call them the big holy cow questions of life, you know, and these are the questions as an atheist that I would ask myself. Literally staring up at the night sky, staring out over Los Angeles that night. I can remember it like it was yesterday, but it was 15 years ago, 16 now. Staring at it, where did it all come from? Does life have meaning? What's the purpose of life? Questions of origins, morality, destiny. These are the holy cow questions of life that started me chasing answers, and my naturalism couldn't give me those answers. So one time I was sitting with my sister. My whole family are Christian. I shared that with you yesterday, except for possibly my mom. I think she's probably safe. We'll figure that out soon. So I was sitting on my sister's floor in her apartment in Boston, and it's me, it's her, Rihanna was there too, and it's her boyfriend, now her husband, and her best friend, Caitlin. And they asked me the question I love to get. It's like a total, they tee it up to me, you know, that they literally asked us, they say, what evidence has led you to believe what you believe? Because they've noticed a difference in my life. I've changed, you know, so they say, why do you believe what you believe? Fantastic. And so I ask these questions. I simply ask, hey, do things exist? Do things exist? To which they say, yes. Because who's going to deny whether things exist or not? Right? So then my next question is, have they always existed? Well, think about it. No, I don't think so. I mean, this chair came into existence. I mean, even you and I came into existence at a certain point, whether you're a naturalist or not. No, they haven't always existed. I don't think so. So then the third question is, what caused them, though? What caused them to exist? You know what I got when I asked that question? Silence. Silence. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. I'm not a biologist. I'm not a philosopher. I don't know. You know, but rationally, think about it. This is not complicated. There's only two choices, right? There's only two choices. Either something caused everything to exist, or nothing caused everything to exist. You just have to choose between the two, right? So, and as an atheist, can I abandon the presentation for a little bit? It's gonna go way better, trust me. So as an atheist, I didn't want to say something. I didn't want to do the something thing, because the second that I said something, that something has to start looking like something specific. It has to take on certain qualities. In the instance of everything, the universe, what caused the universe to come into existence? If you say something, that something has to be outside of its own creation, so it has to be outside of space and time. It has to be all-powerful. It has to be incredibly creative. And before you know it, it starts looking an awful lot like the G word. And I do not want to say the G word, right? And neither does my brother or sister. They don't want to say the G word. So instead, what we do is we opt for the nothing option. But the nothing option is completely irrational. Think about it. What do you get from nothing?
Nothing.
Nothing. This is not controversial. I mean, science itself is based on this principle, guys. Like, could you imagine living in a world where stuff came from nothing? Like, you could be driving down the 405 here, you could be driving down the 405, and all of a sudden a cow just manifests itself in front of your car when you go 65 miles an hour. What a mess. What a messy world. You couldn't observe anything. Scientists looking out into the heavens, they just see things. Looking through microscopes at the amazing wonders on the microscopic level. Things just because out of nothing comes. This is a principle that we all know. It's a principle. Aristotle, I don't know if he actually said it, but he's credited with saying, nothing is that which rocks dream about. You got it. Some of you are going to get it tonight when you're laying in bed. What do rocks dream about? Why? Because they're rocks. They don't dream. But that's nothing. And I'm not talking about the nothing of like a Lawrence Krauss guy who's talking about the quantum vacuum, because even the quantum vacuum is something. Where did all the stuff come from? It had to come from somewhere. Or someone. You see, atheism, naturalism can't explain where all the stuff comes from, but Christianity can. Because its starting place isn't nothing. You have God, an uncreated creator, the first cause. The Big Bang needs a big banger. Right? Oftentimes I see Christians, we get hung up on Big Bang discussions because we don't want to use that term, right? We're afraid of that term. Why? It's a great term. So I was in Disneyland and I was with my kids. I got 4 daughters, like I said. And life is so hard. No, life is hard. It's really good. But so I'm in Disneyland and we've got one of them huge strollers. You know, it's the mountain buggy. This thing costs more than my car. And we're pushing our kids along, and we're at Mater's Wild Ride. My kids love this ride. And so we pack the stroller, and we wait in line, and we're talking to people in line. I love to talk to people, as you saw in the video, and we're talking to people, and all of a sudden we hear, bang, bang! We're like, whoa, everybody turns around, and it's like, whoa, where'd that come from? Nobody was standing there just be like, bangs happen all the time out of nowhere. Just a part of reality. Bangs just manifest themselves. No, everybody's like, where'd the bang come from? Well, we found out. We got off the ride, we went back to our stroller, we had parked it in the hot sun, and both the rear wheels popped. So now things got really challenging for me because I had 4 little kids in Disneyland, no stroller. Yeah, we went home. Kids, I'm suddenly not feeling well. We actually, Disneyland was great. They actually gave us a stroller, like to use for the day, which was fantastic. But notice that the people, when they heard those big bangs, they knew it didn't come from nowhere. See, Christianity, in this instance, the bump of stuff, lines up with our genuine intuitions about reality. It lines up with the way the world really is. Bump of stuff. A bump of stuff. Now let's talk about the bump of bad. Let's talk about the bump of bad. I'm going to fly through these. Don't. I missed a bunch of stuff. I know there's a testimony there. Don't pay attention. Bump of bad. This was the most difficult challenge for me as an atheist. This is the most difficult challenge for me still. It deals with kind of what we touched on a little last night. Problem of evil. Problem of pain and suffering. As an atheist, I was the one that was willing to bring this up to every Christian. This argument, the idea that things are actually bad in the world, was my nail in God's coffin. Because this is one of the few proactive arguments that are offered to disprove the existence of God. It's powerful. And it's something we have to deal with. But I think Christianity has great answers. And I want to point out a few things up front. This isn't just a Christian problem. The problem of evil, the idea that things are bad, not as they ought to be. This is a problem for everybody. Every worldview has to give an answer for bad in the world. The thing is getting rid of God doesn't solve the problem. It just gets rid of one of the possible solutions. When I realized this, things started to shift and change for me a little bit. This picture is from a trip that I took to Auschwitz, German concentration camp. A few years ago, I got the opportunity to go to, I was in Poland, the Czech Republic, and Germany, teaching some apologetic stuff. So I got a chance to go to Auschwitz. And this was actually the most difficult thing for me to witness, because right here what you see is, it's a shattered porcelain doll. You can see kind of the face and the hair, you see some doll shoes, and there's the body there. And what this represents, and this is why it's hard for me, this represents a little girl. There were hundreds of these dolls, because there were hundreds of girls, thousands of little girls who immediately after exiting the cattle car, the train that they were on, were sent directly to the gas chambers because little girls are completely unworthy. And that breaks my heart, because I got 4 little girls, so I see my daughter's face on these things. And so this represents a little girl who really existed, that was exterminated for the fact that she didn't meet somebody's external criteria for her life. She had no value, and they gassed her. So they sent her, what they did is they sent her to this room here. This is the actual gas chamber in Auschwitz, where they would pack it full of people. And the interesting thing is when they first started gassing Jews in the gas chambers, it took about 11 minutes for the Jews to suffocate and die because of the gas. They realized that if they packed more Jews in there, they could use less gas because heat activated the gas, and they would kill them slightly longer. It would take longer to kill them, but they died nonetheless. So they started packing it more, that room more and more with human beings, mostly women and children at first. And then after that, they sent them to this. This is the crematorium right here. They would put the body here. This is a slide. So they put the body here, and this thing moves back and forth, and it shoves them into here where the raging fire went 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And their burnt ashes would rise, from this smoke plume right above it. You see, evil exists. But the question is, where's the evil? What do you mean by evil? When somebody says something is bad, what do they mean it's bad? Are you describing the actions themselves? When I say that Auschwitz, what happened in the furnaces of Auschwitz was wrong, am I saying the same thing as I don't like Brussels sprouts? Or am I saying it was actually wrong, it shouldn't happen, it ought not be? Well, it's the latter. We mean it shouldn't happen, that we're appealing something outside of our personal preference. It's out there somehow, somewhere, the evil. We're describing the actions themselves. It's not just merely, like I was arguing for last night, a cultural point of view. No way. You have to appeal to a moral standard. And we touched on this briefly now, I think 2 or 3 times through some various talks. There has to be a standard outside of ourselves. Well, where do we get that standard from? I want you guys to see something really important. Because when I realized this, I experienced a major point of contention in my worldview. The problem of evil requires objective morality. If you're going to argue that evil exists, you have to appeal to a standard outside of yourself. Here's an example. So I'm talking to my brother Dan. My brother's a really good man. He's dedicated his life to helping inner city minority communities, youth mainly, and their parents. He started a nonprofit called Tech Goes Home. They do amazing work. They're changing lives. Like literally changing lives. He's a good dude. So I'm talking to him about the existence of an objective moral realm to the world, because he's always saying things are wrong, things are bad. So I'll always ask him, say, what do you mean by bad? So we're having this discussion, it's getting heated, he's just like me, we get super excited, so people think we're yelling at each other, we're not, we're just talking, this is how we dialogue, we get excited, we up each other's girls, and we have fun like this, and we're talking, and literally, we're outside of I'm at my church, and we're outside of my pastor's office in the parking lot. He literally comes out and asks us to quiet down. We're outside! And he's asking us to quiet down. All right, whatever. Okay, we'll quiet down. I say, Dan, obviously we're not going anywhere. Let's just put it on hold for a couple minutes. I say, that's cool. He said, you know what, Dan? This is what I say to him. You know what, Dan? I just want to. I want to invite you to a men's getaway that I do every year with a bunch of buddies of mine. I think you're gonna love it. Oh, you got to know this. My brother, not only is an atheist, but he's a vegan. Oh. I deny that I'm related to him in his presence. Right? But he's a vegan. This is like the worst kind of person, right? Vegan atheist. You know, so he's a vegan. But he's a true vegan. Like, he doesn't own anything that's leather. He doesn't. He doesn't, like, he really believes in the cause and he's trying to live the best he can. So anyways, I'm talking to him. I said, Dan, I want you to come with me to this camping trip. We go up to Lake Arrowhead, which is a beautiful area near where I live. I said, we get a cabin, a bunch of guys, we eat really good food, we just talk stuff, there's no pressure. And I said, but the best part of this whole weekend, the best part of what we do is we rent a boat. My buddy, he brings up a 50-gallon drum of sulfuric acid. And we all place a bet on when we row out into the middle of the lake and dump the sulfuric acid into it, how many fishes it's going to kill. You know, and the person who guesses the closest to the number, we all get you get the pool, you get the money. You know, it's fantastic. And by then, my brother's neck is like, he's got veins popping out that I didn't even know existed. And know what he says to me? You can't do that. And I say, Dan, what do you mean I can't do that? My neighbor is the chair of the chemistry department at Pepperdine University. He can get me sulfuric acid. We can rent a cabin up on Lake Arrowhead. I've done it before. We can get a boat and put that sulfuric acid in the boat and dump it. Like, we can do all of this. What you mean is we ought not. We shouldn't. And I said, Dan, it's up to you now to decide, where does that oughtness come from? And this is take this away. This is like the Big Bang means Big Banger. I said, Dan, you can't sin against the particles. You can't sin against the particles. You know what he said? This is great. He said, you know what, Jon? You've given me something to think about, which is all I can ask for. It's all I can ask for. You see, we need a standard outside of ourselves, and I was bumping into this, the bump of bad. Let me highlight this last part. Guys, we do not talk about the soul enough. And we should, because it's a huge problem for the naturalists, but not for me. And I just have a brief time with you. The soul is real. Some people call it consciousness because they want to eliminate the spiritual implications, so they're going to call it consciousness. That's fine. It's that thing that we introspect to. It's that thing that we're constantly aware of, every waking moment of every single day. It's that thing like when I say, you get a song stuck in your head. Right? You get a song stuck in your head. With the younger kids, I'll say, we don't talk about Bruno. You know what I'm talking about. Do you guys know that song?
Oh, yes.
Right? We don't talk. Well, there's popular songs I can sing that get stuck in your head, but in order to get out of your head, I don't crack open your skull, split apart your brain, and extract the song, right? Because it's not in your head that way. What we mean is it's in our mind. It's in the immaterial component that makes you you. It's real, and we all know it. Right? I can demonstrate this to you. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. All right, everybody, take out your wallet and raise it above your head. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Close your eyes. I want you guys to picture a blade of grass, or a couple blades of grass. I want you to reach down with your hand and pick them up. I want you to twirl them and crush those blades of grass between your fingers and lift them up to your nose and smell them. Raise your hand if you can see the blade of grass. Raise your hand if you can feel the blade of grass. Raise your hand if you can smell the blade of grass. Now open up your eyes. Open up your eyes. J.P. Molan puts it this way. I want to ask you, is that blade of grass closer to your right ear or your left ear? Neither, right? That doesn't make any sense. It's like asking, what does the color purple taste like? It doesn't make any sense because it doesn't exist in the physical realm. It exists in your soul, in your consciousness. But notice something. You can interact with it physically. You can touch it. You can see it. You can engage all of your senses. You can smell it. If I asked you to taste it, you probably could have tasted it. That's your soul. Souls are real. Souls are special. This is something I would have agreed to as an atheist. I just couldn't base it in reality. I knew that human beings were beautiful and special, and we ought not burn them alive. Souls are special. But where do you get that idea of what makes somebody special? Because naturalism only, Phil talked about it last night, where you end with might makes right on naturalism. I'm a big dude. It can be a very scary place if might makes right. Dr. Fernandez used to box. Could you imagine him angry? A little tornado over there. No. But we know that's not the way the world really is, because humans are special, they're unique. But we can ground that because we believe in what's called the image of God. The image of God. Third component, souls are real. Souls are special. Third, souls are broken. This is really where things cause me major issues as an atheist. I'm going to wrap up, I promise. I knew in the quiet moments of my life that I was messed up. I knew it. I was arguing once, this is fast forward, I had an ongoing debate with an attorney, a partner, one of the partners at the last law firm I worked at, on the resurrection of Jesus. 7 years. We had a kind of a dialogue, not a debate, but a dialogue going on about that. He would come in, he asked me questions, I'd either give him the answers or find the answers. And towards the end of my tenure at that law firm, before I became a pastor and then a speaker with Stand to Reason, I asked him, it was nighttime in my office, and we're finishing up one of the last cases that I was working on, and I remember talking to him, he's asked me another question, I give him the answer to it, and I say, you know what? Let me ask you a question. I've tried to answer the best I can all your questions. I say, Greg, when you're alone at night, under your comforter, next to your beautiful wife, your kids are finally asleep, do you pray? You know what this is an atheist. You know what he said to me? He said, yeah, I pray. I said, why? He says, it's a hard work. I said, well, now it's up to you to figure out who it is that you're praying to. Who it is that you're praying to. You know, in that time, he went from atheist to agnostic, which I think is a much bigger leap than agnostic to Christian, in my opinion. You know, so you can be praying for Greg in his journey. He's not there yet. But God's got hold of him. But even he, an ardent atheist, even me, knew that the world was broken. What solace, what option does naturalism give us to our brokenness? Ourselves? Pull ourselves up by our own bootstraps, right? We saw that last night in Phil's presentation. What happens when things go wrong? We just need more money, more sex, more power, right? More education. My number one topic I speak on around the country right now is suicide. That is not why I got into Christian apologetics. But it's because I see that we've become synchronistic. Even Christians have joined our Christian worldview with naturalism, and we turn inward for our solutions, for our significance, for our problems, solutions to life's questions. But when we turn inward, all we find is ourselves. That same brokenness keeps rearing its head up. But Christian theism can offer the solution. It has offered the solution in the person, in the work of Jesus Christ. You see, I'm a Christian because I met a girl who bumped into a screen door, and then I bumped into reality. I'm not a Christian because it makes me feel good. I'm not a Christian because it solved any huge problem. I'm not an addict who found Christ, and I mean that's good, that happens, but that's not why I'm a Christian. I'm a Christian because it's true. Because it's true. Meaning it accurately reflects the way the world really is. Thank you guys.